Okay, Shalom. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rekakwadash. Double honors goes out to the other apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also, I want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. And Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, so yesterday I did my lesson in Daniel chapter 2, talking about men who put their faith and their trust in Yahweh instead of anything else, right? And how everything was written aforetime for our learning. Grab that real quick. Romans 15:4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Right. So that's the same thing we're going to go in today. This story here that I'm about to read is written aforetime before our learning, to show us that there are examples of men who have faith and have the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, and have the spirit to be patient, like it says here, which also means suffer, and have the spirit to endure, right? Because we're going to have to build our spirit up, and we're going to have to endure into Jacob's trouble, which is another word for Jacob's trouble would be martial law, a modern term. But when martial law hits in Babylon, America, and you have Esau Edom, the so-called white man, trying to implement his New World Order, his totalitarian government. He's, including enforcement of the micro CHIP, the micro CHIP, right? When he puts that as a draconian law and it's mandated, you're going to have a built-up spirit in this truth and this knowledge so that you can resist the wicked device of the heathen, right? So let's go with this real quick. Revelation 3:10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, this is Yahushua speaking, I will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. All right, so the hour of temptation is dealing with when your back is against the wall and you have to make a decision on whether or not to take the micro CHIP, which, let's get that real quick. Revelation 13:16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, which that number is 666. All right, which it goes into that micro CHIP. All right. So if you don't have the mark, you're not going to be able to function in society. So you're going to have to, have the right spirit. And Yahweh Shai, he said in Revelation 3:10, we just read it, he's going to keep us from the hour of temptation. He's going to keep us, whether, we'd rather be, put to death, put in a prison, put in a FEMA camp, than take that device that's going to be mandated as law. All right, you can sit there and say, "Oh, they'll never do that to us. They're never gonna." But they did that already to a point with the the Novid-19, right? Telling you didn't have to take that at first, then all of a sudden you had to take it. If you wanted to go to a restaurant, if you wanted to travel, if you wanted to, do anything outside in public, for a while there, they had you on lockdown. So you don't think this devil is capable of doing that to you? Well, you're sadly mistaken. Let me get this. Revelation 12:12. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. That's why he's going to move quickly with his micro C hip. All right, so now let's get to the lesson of what I was actually going to go into. I just wanted to set that foundation, talking about what the times we're in and what we're going to have to deal with, And again, everything written aforetime was for our learning. So there were examples of men who were able to endure, the oppression of the heathen. All right, so we're going to start in Maccabees. Sorry, 2 Maccabees 6:1. It says, "Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of their power, of their God, and to pollute." And by the way, that micro C hip is against our law of our God, of our power, of Yahweh, right? It's in Leviticus. It tells you you shouldn't make any cuttings in the flesh. It's Leviticus 19:28 tells you that. So it says, "And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwell in the place." All right, because these were the Greeks. All right, this was during the Edomite Greek captivity, Greco-Roman captivity. All right, and this is Jupiter is the opposite of, well, he's the same, but he's the. Let me see, so I get it right. Okay, so Zeus was Greek mythology, while Jupiter was Roman mythology, but they were the same pagan god. Okay, so it says, "And that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defenders of strangers, as they did desire that dwell in that place, the coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people." To what people? To our people. Because you had the heathen polluting our temple. All right? And they went overboard, man. They're still going overboard, polluting our people. Devouring our people with their, customs, their traditions, their laws. But it says in verse 4, "For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles." And reveling goes into drunkenness. There, just debauchery, just straight madness in the temple, which is sacred, right? And holy. "Who dallied with harlots," there was fucking whores inside the temple, "and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that brought in things that were not lawful." So they were just having a big old debauchery party up in our temple. "The altar was also filled with profane things which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew." Right, because this is oppression in the Greek captivity. You weren't allowed to call yourself a Jew. You weren't allowed to keep the high holy days. "And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought a bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast or the fast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy." All right, and that Bacchus, the same like Zeus and Jupiter, because you had Greek and Roman gods, and they had the same gods, but they had different names for them. But they were like Zeus was Jupiter; he's the same god, and Bacchus right here, Dionysus, which was a Greek god, and Bacchus would have been known as the Roman counterpart. All right, which he was a god of fertility, of sex, of debauchery, fruits, vegetation, winemaking, religious ecstasy, theater, right? All these type of things is what that pagan idol represented. All right, let's keep reading. It says, moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggest of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. Okay. So the heathen, this was the degree. You couldn't keep the high holy days. You had to take on the ways of the heathen, right? Jeremiah 10 tells you not to learn the ways of the heathen. All right, let's get that real quick. Jeremiah 10 and 1. It says, verse 2, thus saith Yahweh, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. So you're not supposed to learn the ways of the heathen, but yet our people were taking on the customs, the fashions, the high they were taking on their holy days, or they call them holidays, right? So they was doing all this, and it was going into, oppression, and you weren't allowed to keep your high holy days. You weren't allowed to keep your Sabbaths. You weren't allowed to, do any of the law. If they found out you were doing the law of Israel, you would be dealt with. Let's see, second man, where are we at? It says in verse 4. Wait, I'm on the wrong. Sorry. Verse 8. Well, I read that. Verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manner of the Gentiles should be put to death. Then might a man have seen the present misery. Okay? So you had to get down with the heathen, or you would be put to death. If you didn't take on their fashions, customs, traditions, you weren't celebrating their holidays, you were put to death. They were basically making you a Gentile, turning you into a Gentile. Making you do things that were against the laws of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. And the you, I'm talking about you Israelites. All right, verse 10. For there were 2 women brought who had circumcised their children, which is a custom of ours, right? The circumcision law. It says, whom when they had openly led round about the city, the babes handing at their breasts, they cast them down headlong from the wall. So they took these 2 women who were trying to keep the law of circumcision, and they threw their babies off the edge of the wall of the city wall, killed them. Verse 11. And others that had run together into caves nearby, this is talking about Israelites, they were trying to hide to keep the Sabbath, right? It says to keep the Sabbath day secretly, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together, because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. All right? So you had our people who were considered rebels in this day. This is why they were, the babies got thrown off the walls of the city, right? Put to death, the babies. Then they had the Israelites who were running into caves to try and keep the Sabbath, right? Doing things in secret. You had to. This is how bad Yahweh has punished our people, man. Because we have to, do our things in secret. Because the heathen are ruling over us. It tells you in 2nd Ezra 6, towards the end, that the heathen devour us. And this is what part of the devouring is. When you can't keep your own laws and your own statutes and your own customs, that means you're devoured. All right? It says, being discovered by Philip, were all burnt together because they made a conscience to help themselves for the honor of the most sacred day. Right. So they were trying to do what was right. Right. These Israelites that were doing this in secret in the caves. Then Philip caught them up, and guess what? He put them on to death by fire. He burnt them up. And really, they ended up dying a martyrship, right? You die when you die for what you believe in. You become what is known as a martyr, and that's what this actually story is. Even yesterday, the lesson I did in Daniel chapter 2, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, they were all martyred. They would have been martyrs, but the thing is Yahweh delivered them from that fire, from that furnace. And he's going to do the same for the ones who are of the elect that keep you don't bend the knee to Esau, and you keep it real. You keep the laws. You honor the law. You don't take you don't violate the law by taking the micro C hip, that I read about earlier in the lesson. Verse 12. Now I beseech those that read this book that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for a chastening of our nation. All right? So it's saying, don't be discouraged to, keep the law. Don't be discouraged to be honorable. But this is a chastening from who? From Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai on our nation, because why? We're in captivity. We went off, right? We went off. We didn't keep the our people have been rebellious. Basically, you go back really all the way. You can go back to the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, which they weren't calling themselves Israelites at that time. But those were at that time, those Adamites were the chosen who were given that breath of life, which goes into the understanding. All right, the understanding of what? The understanding of these scriptures. Verse 13. For it is a token of his great goodness when wicked doers are not suffered any long time, but forthwith punished. For not as with other nations whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish, till they come to the fullness of their sins, so dealeth he with us. Right, so he's punishing us. You're not supposed to despise the chastisement of Yahweh. You're supposed to take it gladly. And when you're a martyr, when you're in that mindset where you're ready to die for this truth, then guess what? This is Yahweh dealing with you. If he doesn't deal with you, that means if he doesn't chastise you, that means he's not dealing with you. It tells you that in Hebrews. Verse 15, lest that being come to the height of sin, afterwards he should take vengeance of us. Right, so he's doing all this stuff, allowing the heathen to devour us, allowing the heathen to rule over us, allowing the heathen to put oppression to the point where we can't keep our laws, or they want to force us to do things that are against our holy law, right? And Yahweh's doing this for an occasion against the heathen. That he's going to fuck up Esau, Edom, that's the prophecy. He's going to fuck him up. And it's going to be an occasion of vengeance, because he's like, all right, well, you did this to my people. Now it's time for me to, it's time for that great payback. And as it is written, vengeance is of Yahweh, right? Vengeance is not ours, but vengeance is Yahweh's, as it is written. Verse 16, and therefore he never withdraws his mercy from us, and though he punish with adversity, yet doth he never forsake his people. Right, so we got to go through this punishment. We got to go through this, Jacob's trouble. This is a part of what the prophecy's written. We can't, change the will of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. We can't change it. So we have to go through this adversity, but guess what? He is not going to forget his people. Verse 17, but let this that we had spoken be for a warning unto us, and now will we come to the declaring of the matter in a few words. All right. So yeah, this is just more of a warning, right? Because we know what's written. We know what we win at the end. So just deal with it. That's why we got to build our spirit up. And really, the elect are the only ones who are going to do that. The only ones who are not going to fold and bend the knee to Esau, Edom, and end up taking that micro C hit. Verse 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man and a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. So they had Eleazar, one of the leaders of Israel. They had him constrained, which means he was like tied down, they were like ready to force him to eat the swine's flesh. Which, like I say, they're gonna put you in straits. Put you in a corner like an animal, and say, hey, you either take our micro C hip or you get thrown in a prison or in a FEMA camp. They're going to put you in a constraint. Whether it's spiritually or literally physically tie your ass up and put a micro C hip in certain people. But Yahweh is only going to allow the 2/3. The elect are not going to take that micro C hip. Alright? So that's what they were doing to Eleazar. They were trying to force him to eat the pig, which they knew that's against our law. Verse 19, but he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth, and came of his own accord to the torment. Right, so he wasn't going to do it. And this is that example that I was telling you about, that the Lord has everything is written aforetime for our learning. The Lord has an example right here with Eleazar. And as we go on and read, he was an older man. He was up in advanced age. But guess what? He had that spirit of the elect. And he's like, I'm not going to eat this fucking pig flesh. I'm not going to eat this swine's meat. See? He rather deal with the torment of the heathen than to eat that fucking abomination, which would have been that pig. Verse 20. As it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such thing as are not lawful for love of life to be tasted, but they that had the charge of the wicked feast, or the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside. So his old friends the people that had known him, pulled him aside. It said, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use. Meaning they brought him some like beef or some steak or something. And they're like, hey, just act like you're eating the pig. We'll just bring you this beef, right? That's what their scheme was. It says, which was lawful for him to use, and make as if he did eat the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king. So they came, pulled him aside. They're like, yo, we'll just bring you some steak and eat that in front of the king. He'll think you're eating the pig, right? And you can do this in front of Israel. This way you can live. So what does he do? Verse 22. That in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. Delivered from death from who? From those heathen leaders that were trying to force him to eat the pig's flesh, right? We're going to go with this real quick. Matthew 10 and 28, it says, and fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell. So this is the mindset of the elect. You don't fear the one who can kill the body, because Esau, he can kill you. He'll kill all of us, right? But he can only kill our body. He can't kill the soul. We have to fear the one who can destroy our soul and our body, which is Yahweh. Only Yahweh Baal Shem Yahushai can do that. Okay? Let's keep reading. Verse 23. But he began to consider discreetly. So he thought about their offer, right? They said, "Oh, we'll bring you some beef, and you can just eat that in front of the king, and that way you can live. Make it seem like you ate his pig, you ate his abomination." And he's thinking to himself now, and has become his age, and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereon was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by the Most High, Therefore he answered accordingly, and willed them straightways to send him to the grave. So he thought about it. He said, should I sell out, eat this pig's flesh, and become, I can live longer. I'm going to be with these people right around me that are trying to help me out here, right? Those his friends that were trying to give him the lawful meat, right? He said, no, you know what? Once he thought about it, he was built his spirit up because he was the elect. So what he do? He said, no, send me to the grave, right? And that's the spirit you're going to have to be when you, that's the spirit you're going to have to be in as a man of the elect, as a man who's going to, it's either the Lord's going to give you an occasion to get away from the heathen, or he's going to put you in the hands of the heathen, and you're going to get, put to death by the heathen, or put in a FEMA camp by the heathen, But you got to build your spirit up, because if you're not building your spirit up, and you're not going to be kept from that hour of temptation, you're going to fold, or you're just not going to, you're going to end up folding. But in this case, Eleazar, who's written for aforetime for our learning, he didn't fold. He said, you know what, send me to the grave, kill me. See? And you think it's all fun and games, man, right now. You fucking two-thirds, you Israelites, but you know what? You're going to be put in these situations, man. We just read in Revelation 3 and 10 that everyone's going to be in that hour of temptation. It's going to come across all men. Free and bond, rich and poor. Let's keep reading. Verse 24. For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, which that's 90 years old, were now gone to a strange religion. So he thought about it. He said, you know what? All these young Israelites around me, they're going to be thinking like, man, this guy who's like an example, he's like a leader of Israel, and he ended up eating, like even if he ate the fucking steak meat or the beef, right, that his friends was trying to bring to him, Eleazar was like, man, they see me, they're going to assume that I was eating that abomination too, and then that's a bad example to my people, right? The young men. And he's talking about the young persons of Israel. He ain't talking about the heathen. To hell with them. That's why right now you got heathens, and then 2/3 of our own people are in that heathen mindset, where they'll be at your job eating the fucking pepperoni pizza and my job right now, you already got these fucking Israelite girls that I work with. They already done decorated their offices with all the fucking Halloween shit. Those are all customs to the heathen. And that's what that going to that strange religion. That's what he says. We're now gone to there. He's like, I don't want my people thinking I went to a strange religion and didn't keep it real to Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Verse 25, and so they, through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable. Right? So he was like, man, should I look like a hypocrite after all these years. I'm over here a leader in Israel, a scribe of Israel. And now all of a sudden, my people, especially the young people, the young of my people, they see me going over there, changing up at the end just to live a little bit longer, just so that he can, he's already 90. What's he gonna do? Live, whatever amount more years, but he's gonna be looked at as a hypocrite and stained in his reputation, right? And an abomination, So he was, but guess what? 90 years old, guess what? He was a man of the elect. So, I'm half that age, a little over half that age, so that's why we got to build our spirits up of the elect. We ain't going to go to no 90, Lord willing, but you can imagine though, that'd be like throwing 90 years of being of the elect, of being in the truth, and just for one little moment, so you can live maybe a couple years more under the heathen. Come on, man. He was in his right mindset. That's why he said, "Send me to the grave." Verse 26. For the present time I should be delivered from the punishment of men, yet should I not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead. Right. So you're going to get away from the men for just a moment, but what about the Almighty Yahweh? You can't, remember we read in Matthew 10 and 28, fear the one that can kill the body and the soul, not the one that just can kill the body. So, Eliezer came to his senses, and why? Because he was built up in his spirit, because he was of the elect. Everything written aforetime was for our learning, all right? Verse 27, wherefore now manfully changing this life, I will show myself such an one as mine age requireth. See, and he did that manful. Why does it say manfully? Because you got to be a man in this truth. You can't be no little bitch that's going to get ready to change up at the last second because you got a little pressure on you. Once the heat's turned on in the kitchen, now you want to get to cooking. No. Manfully, it says. He endured what he had to endure like a man. All right? Verse 28. And leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable and the holy laws. Right. And that's what we're going to be doing, man. You're going to do that manfully when you're put in that position with the micro C hip and Esau's got your back against the wall, He's getting ready to put a guillotine on you, chop your head off, because that's prophecy. And there are going to be precious sight in the Lord for the elect will, the death of the saints is a precious thing in the sight of the Yahweh. But guess what? We know it's going to happen. It's written in the Revelation. John saw the vision of men of the elect getting their heads chopped off by the guillotine. Beheaded, right? So we're going to have to build up our spirit because, if you're the elect, if you're in that precious saint that's going to get killed by Esau, guess what? You're going to die like a man. You see? But if you're just fucking off all these years and you ain't building yourself in the spirit, you ain't doing your lessons, you ain't going to camp, you ain't building up your spirit in the truth and the knowledge, then how in the F are you gonna be able to come to terms with being a man and being a martyr for the whole, like it says here, the honorable and holy laws. You see? Verse 29. They that led him changing the good, will they bear him a little before into hatred, because they foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought from a desperate mind. Right, but when he was ready to die with stripes, they was whooping his ass, and he's 90. He groaned and said, it is manifest unto Yahweh that hath the holy knowledge, that whereas I might be delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten, but in soul am I well content to suffer these things because I fear him. And also you're going to know, that's the chastisement of Yahweh. As a man, you have to deal with the chastisement of Yahweh. If you understand the truth, if you understand his judgments, then you're going to know, well, guess what? I'm getting this treatment because guess what? This was my lot. Even Eliezer, his lot was to get beaten by the stripes of men, and all this stuff was going because why? Because he had sinned too, we're sinners. So it's not like we're put in these positions, getting ready to, if you're one of those prophets who's going to get beheaded, or if you're one of those prophets that's going to get put to death preciously in the sight of Yahweh, well, guess what? At the end of the day, we're sinners. We deserve whatever our lot is. You see? Verse 31. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of noble courage and a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation. See? So he was a man of noble courage and virtue, and he was an example. All right? Written aforetime for our learning, so that when we, might suffer any of these type of things by the heathen, guess what? Our spirits are built up. We are ready to deal with it. We're ready to die like a man. Remember what Tupac said? Tupac said, I'd rather die like a man than live like a coward. And I'm not saying Tupac was anything noble, but, you know, that verse came to mind when I read this. See? So it's not only to the young men of his time, but into all the nation, even me, you know, thousands of years later. And guess what? I'm doing a lesson on his nobility, on his honorableness, on his virtue. See? So I'm gonna go ahead and close on that. I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to give all the praise, all the glory, all the honor unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Ka'akodash. Double honors goes out to the elder apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me the truth. Also want to acknowledge all the Akyam who are pushing the truth with sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom to the elect.